right, it is good to be here. I spent the last 2 days at your school learning a lot. I think probably the most important thing I learned is that you, graduates, didn't do this by yourself. You did it because you got grandmas and grandpas in here. You got moms and dads and brothers like me, sisters, nieces, and nephews, and teachers who saw something in you. Whether things were good or not so good, decided that you were worth it, decided to stand by you so you could be here today. So I think we should start out by giving them a very, very big round of applause. I think that's pretty cool how life works like that. So in a lot of ways, it's a pretty odd thing that I'm standing up here in front of you. See, I was raised in Birmingham, Alabama. Who's ever been to Birmingham in this auditorium right now? Not a whole lot of people. Now, the reason why it's somewhat odd that I'm here is Birmingham, Alabama is not only pretty far away, but until I was 21 years old, I never left the United States. I felt pretty cloistered. I felt pretty sheltered. So maybe it's somewhat intimidating to be in a class, I think, of young people from over 79 countries around the world. And when I was in Birmingham, I didn't have the best of it, to be honest with you. I grew up relatively poor. My mom, my dad, they cared about me. But the reality is I grew up on welfare. I grew up on food stamps. I grew up eating some pretty crappy food. Burger King chicken sandwiches, cinnamon rolls out of vending machines, nachos and cheese from 7-Eleven, stuff that probably tasted good, but probably wasn't the best for me. I grew up in an education system that, to be honest with you, wasn't quite like the system that you're in today. Education system I grew up in Alabama taught me how to memorize a lot of things, but didn't really teach me how to think, how to be creative, how to use my mind, how to be a systems thinker, like I think a lot of you are. But in Birmingham, I tried to make the best of it because I tried to have a vessel for all my energy. And my vessel was football, American football. I thought that I would be a National Football League star. My entire life, my passion, my energy was all about football. I'd wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning and do plyometrics. I'd sprint at night. I'd tell my middle school friends and my high school friends and eventually my college friends that was going to be who I am. That was going to be what I was going to be in life. Unfortunately for me, the NFL didn't really pan out. When I got to college, I quickly realized that most of the players that I was going up against were bigger, were faster, and just knew how to play the sport better. So you can imagine for me, that was a bit devastating. My entire life was based on this one platform. My energy directed to this one thing. And now I couldn't do it. So I decided to try to sort it out a little bit. And this is where, graduates, I really want you to pay attention. I tried to sort it out, but I got some conflicting advice. Yeah, I asked a lot of friends what I should do with my life, and they gave me the typical advice. They said, Josh, you know what you should do? You should be an investment banker. You should go to law school, be an attorney, be an accountant. After all, you got to figure out some way to make money. And I said, well, I don't know about those jobs. I'm not sure I'm passionate about that. I'm not sure they align with who I am. They said, doesn't matter, do it anyway. You might hear that advice sometimes, too. So I decided to ignore their advice and get the heck out of the United States, and that's when I went to sub-Saharan Africa. I spent about 7.5 years back and forth working across Africa. I worked with a school in Cape Town trying to get young people off the street and into school. Young kids hopped up on all sorts of drugs, abused, neglected, abandoned. I worked with the United Nations Development Program, trying to help farmers access new markets. I worked in a little country called Liberia, conflict-ridden place with a lot of beautiful people who want something more for themselves, trying to convince businesses to invest in Liberia even though bullet holes are scarring the walls, and really help the country rebuild. And as I went through these experiences, I realized that I learned some things that I think you graduates already know. You know about the big systems impacting this world. I talked to a lot of you in the last 2 days. You know about education. You know about the fact that 67 million young kids today don't have the opportunity to go to school like you. They're living on the street under cardboard boxes. You know not every school teaches systems thinking. Remember the one that I went to in Alabama? You know there are tens of thousands of young girls today in brothels, victims of sexual exploitation instead of having the ability to make their mark as a graduate of a school like this. You know, looking at the education system that doesn't reflect who you are, that the education system needs to be thought of anew. You know this. You know when you look at the energy system, it doesn't reflect who we are. Whether it is the 71 million tons of emissions we pump in the atmosphere, whether it's the fact that we continue to dig underground when we have a sun right above us, whether it's the fact that we have 2.1 billion people, graduates, living in a state of energy poverty, which just means they don't have the ability to have the light and the heat and the refrigeration that we all do. But it's not just energy, and it's not just education. It's also healthcare. But you know this, you're aware of this. You know there are 30,000 kids that die every single day of preventable disease, of TB, malaria, and conditions related to not having a clean glass of water to drink. You know often medicine treats the thing instead of prevents it. You know it because I've talked to you in the last few days. You're a lot more aware than I ever was. And I think you know about the food system too. You know that the idea of eating well is not a basic right today, although it should be. You know 1 billion people go to bed hungry every single night. You know billions of animals live behind the walls of factory farms. You know the food system doesn't reflect who you are. But awareness is not enough, because class of 2018, you need a strategy. You need a strategy that helps link you up, what's best in you, your love of design, your love of math, your love of engineering, your fascination with data science, your want to pursue a career in law. You need a strategy to link who you are up, to what the world needs the most. You need a strategy that allows you to ask big questions like, what does it look like in the next 10 years if every kid has an education? You need a strategy that asks yourself, what does it look like in the next 20 years if we never dig another solitary piece of coal, but instead we harness the energy of the sun? You need a strategy that asks you, in our lifetime, could we solve this micronutrient deficiency deal where people, young kids, have food in their belly but not enough nutrients going to their brain? You, class of 2018, need a strategy. A strategy like my buddy who decided to use his love of engineering not to do things that don't matter, but instead to engineer batteries to fuel hundreds of millions of electric cars in the future. You need a strategy, graduates. A strategy like my buddy Joshua Balk, who's maybe as passionate about policy and government as you are, but instead of working to pass things that don't matter, he worked to pass ballot initiatives all across the United States to give animals a break, give them a little bit more space, improve welfare reforms for the most vulnerable. You need a strategy, graduates, if you love art and culture and music. You need to deploy that. Like my buddy Katie Myler, who started an organization called More Than Me that gets young girls off the street and into school and has a curriculum based in the arts, allowing her to be who she is, allowing the love of art and music to wrap around these young lives. You need a strategy scientist in this room who love biochemistry, who love molecular biology, like my buddy Joshua Klein, who decided to work for a company to build predictive models to prevent and mitigate some of the worst disease in this world. Because see, class, awareness will never be enough. A hashtag will never be enough. A conversation will never be enough. What is enough, though, is figuring out a way to link who you are, the love that you have for these subjects, the passion you have for design, the energy you have for engineering, to what the world really needs. I think what's remarkable about that happening in this room right now is that it's not just a good deal for the world, although it surely is. It ends up being a pretty good deal for you too. See, I think you'll realize as you get older, as the parties wind down today and you pick your college and you start as a freshman and you go through life, you'll realize that you need a focus. You need something to keep you founded when the world tries to knock you off of your kindness and your empathy that I know every single person in this room has. You need a place to have your energy guided, a vessel for your own life, a mission that helps direct what you do every single day. Something that you can always ask, how do I increase the probability that I achieve my mission every single day? A place to laugh, a place to make a little money, a place that brings out in the brightest and in the fullest ways exactly who you are. So graduates, I want you to remember, awareness is not enough. Make that strategy happen. Connect who you are to what the world needs the most. And do me a favor, fight for it hard. Don't let the naysayers knock you off it. Keep strong to that path. And I'm going to be really excited to watch all the incredible, extraordinary things that you're going to do. Congratulations.